Tony D and Little Joan somewhere in the sunbeam. And this is a screenwriter's tip today. And I have to thank, I'm going to read his YouTube handle, Ray Little Bucks. I think I'm saying that right. It's all one word. He writes, "Hey, where can I, someone with zero writing experience, learn to become a screenwriter? Thank you." So this is by request. And let's see. He's got, yeah, it's Rayan Alibux. Rayan Alibux. No limits. Ray, I'm here to tell you. Now, there's some official ways, and you should watch my first video on this subject because it kind of ties into that. Screenwriting is so specialized. It's sort of offered in film schools around the country. In colleges, it was offered at my school. I went to a communications school, and it was offered as an emphasis. So I majored in screenwriting, or I majored in communications with an emphasis on screenwriting. And so essentially that was the focus. There was emphasis on filmmaking, there was emphasis on TV, radio, a few other emphasis. These days, depending on the college, it might be a degree, but colleges aren't what they used to be. And looking back on it, the real experience I got was actually doing stuff. And we had a weekend comedy show that all the guys I hung out with worked on. And I got most of my experience from that because we actually wrote every week. We were writing comedy sketches. We were having writers meeting and every week. And then on the weekends, we would shoot comedy sketches and edit them for broadcast on the campus TV show. Now, that's a good experience, but it costs a lot of money. Do you need that? No. Looking back on it, there was a guy who lived locally near the college, and he auditioned for our comedy show, and we let him on the show. He didn't go to our college. We just liked him. And he was on the show for like 6 years, I think. I mean, I was there for 4 years when he was on the show. He got on, I guess, my freshman or sophomore year. I forget. But he was on it after I left because he lived locally. He could just come down and be on the show. Yeah, and he didn't take a single class, and he got pretty good experience too. Now, he had some of that experience in college before, in a different college, but yeah, just to give you an example, he didn't take any classes in screenwriting and stuff. Now, for my money, screenwriting is basically formatting, okay? The actual act of screenwriting is all format. You have to know the format, and you're about 80% there. You can write a screenplay. Now, will it be good? Well, that's a completely different discussion. But the actual formatting, you can look up online. There's a million different places. You start each scene, and you describe a scene. You start with a description that is either interior or exterior, INT period or EXT period. And then you say, for instance, the time of day and the location. So it might be interior, Tony's office, day. And what that is an indication of in the screenwriting world is how to light it. So everybody knows how to light it then. Oh, it's a daytime. If it was nighttime, it would be a different lighting situation in here. So that's very important. When you're following this format, so when they break down the scripts in terms of the shooting, they can shoot it in the order that's most efficient. And that's what the screenplay is for. It's a blueprint on how to do the movie, how to make the movie in the most efficient way possible. So, for instance, if half of a movie was me talking like this during the day, it would be interior, Tony's office, day. And we would probably shoot all those scenes one after another every day for 8 hours a day until they were all done. Um, Now, if we had nighttime scenes, you might say, well, what wouldn't you just transition right into the nighttime? Well, what are we going to be shooting 24/7? Probably not. You're probably going to be shooting about 6 to 8 hours. Depends. If it's a union thing, you're going to shoot 8 hours and you're going to be done, or else you're going to be paying money. So it depends on how you're shooting it. If you're shooting a low budget thing, yeah, you might go 12 hours, 14 hours. It depends on your production. But the screenplay facilitates that organization. So somebody will take the script after it's finalized, and they will take all the interior shots and put them on a list. And then they'll split those into locations. So all the interior shots in the day in my office would be all stacked together so we could shoot them all at once. Also, the scenes are stacked according to the first scenes you want to shoot sometimes are with your star, right? So sometimes you hire a name celebrity to be in a movie and you want to shoot all his scenes together so he gets out in the quickest amount of time. So when you see one of these movies where you have a famous star from like 20 years ago and he's the bad guy, right? And he shows up at the beginning of the movie and sends his minions to kill the protagonist, right? And it's in an office scene and it's dark and he's being all gangster. And then about halfway through the movie, we check in with him. He's on the phone. Get him! I said to kill him. And then finally in the third act, there's a big scene at the office where finally the protagonist meets the main villain. He's been orchestrating it throughout the movie. And then, the protagonist shoots him or whatever. You would shoot all that celebrity scenes all at once. You'd shoot that first scene where he's sending the guys to kill him, those middle scenes where he's checking in on the phone, and then finally the third act scene where his last handful of minions are like, he's coming, and they die, and he gets out his gold-plated revolver and takes the girl hostage, and there's one final confrontation, and then the bad guy dies. Now you send him on his way because he cost you the most money, and then you go shoot the other scenes. So that's why you organize a screenplay like this. Interiors, exteriors, and you list who's in every scene. So that's the important things in a screenplay. It's all about formatting. Now, from story purposes, you have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Act 1, you set up the story, set up the characters, set up the problem, things get worse. Act 2, everything escalates. The character goes on a journey. By the end of the second act, things look very bleak. The third act, the hero comes around and overcomes the obstacle, saves the day, changes in some way, and then you have a conclusion, a denouement, and the movie ends. So I basically told you 98% of the things you need to learn as a screenwriter. Now, the other part of it is actually doing it and getting feedback from an actual person that could say, this is a good screenplay, or this part is good, or this is bad, and you have to change it, or you need to do this. That kind of instruction you can get from going to a college or taking some sort of class, or working under another screenwriter who hopefully is good. Now in LA, there'll be guys who are screenwriters and they hire guys who are assistants, but they often do a lot of grunt work, right? So they're not really doing writing as the assistant. They're getting coffee and picking up dry cleaning and running errands and office work and doing a bunch of nonsense that really isn't screenwriting. But then later, hopefully, the guy's going to say, okay, let me see the screenplay you worked on and give you some instruction as partial payment for your services. If you can find a screenwriter who does that, That's usually good, especially if he's in the industry out in LA, because hopefully you'll also meet his contacts. And they're always looking for young guys to front movies. It tends to be, especially if you're in comedy, a young man's game. Hollywood loves the youth. But if you want to learn this skill from a practical perspective, because you want to shoot some films yourself, understand the format, how it breaks down. You need to be able to see movies in your head. And I talked about that in the other video, right? Often what I do is I see the scenes in my head. I hear my dog barking. I see the scenes in my head, and then I describe them in the screenplay or in the story. These story writing skills you need to develop, they're outside of screenwriting. You need to write some short stories and then write some novels and go on a journey. That's a much longer discussion, how to actually write things, how to develop characters and all that good stuff. But if you follow the basic formula of a screenplay, act 1, act 2, act 3, if you develop the characters and repeat certain themes and build and heighten, you like to heighten in a screenplay, things get bigger and crazier, generally you'll be okay if you're creative enough to come up with ideas on the fly. I always recommend to people to take improv classes. That's a really good way to develop your creative chops. It teaches you to generate ideas and just sort of throw them away and just keep doing it and grinding through ideas. And once you've done that for a few years, it gets very easy. You won't be so precious in all your ideas, and you'll be able to just develop some ideas, build them up, and then move forward with new ideas if you have to. So if you want to get some training as a screenwriter, you can hire a guy like me. I've done it. I do it because I need the cash. Other screenwriters, they'll do it because they need the cash. And that's the primary reason a screenwriter will do it. This is, again, a thankless job of screenwriting. Unless you're developing it because you're a director and you want to write your own screenplays, that's perfectly fine. If you're an actor and you want to write your own screenplays, that's perfectly fine too. It's a job that's really hard to be specialized in, which is what I talked about in the first video. So you have to decide who's going to give you good feedback, who's going to teach you well. If it's someone like me, you have to contact me. Somebody who's a big name, who's making lots of money, they're probably just not going to have the time to teach you. The money won't be worth it. The time won't be worth it. And they probably just don't want to do it. If I was making $200,000 a screenplay and working steady enough, I could sell a screenplay or two a year. You wouldn't hear me offer classes. And you might say, well, shouldn't I be looking for one of those guys to teach me since they're the guys who make all the money? Money's not necessarily the best metric in this, because there are a lot of Nepo babies in Hollywood. There are a lot of people who get paid to write screenplays. They have no idea what they're doing. Have you seen the movies that come out? Have you seen any of them? Yeah, they're not too great. A lot of them have terrible screenplays. Now, a lot of them get ruined by the director, by the actors, by the producer. It's hard to tell sometimes when you see the final product. Sometimes the studio ruins them. Sometimes the focus group feedback leads to a process that ruins them. You can never tell. Only if you've been part of the production can you tell. I was looking at clips last night from a movie I wrote, and I was very excited because I recognized the dialogue exactly as I wrote it. And I was like, oh, thank God he didn't change anything. But some guys don't write screenplays like me. Some guys, especially directors, will write a very loose screenplay. They'll write a screenplay that's about what they want the characters to say, and then they'll let the actors improv it So you won't get the exact words, but you'll get something close, something pretty close, hopefully in the spirit of that. And that a lot of that depends on what kind of screenplay it is, whether you need saucy banter or you need intense dialogue or whatever. Um, some dialogue, it's more about the delivery than the actual words. Um, so don't be too precious, but again, it depends on the story and the context. So if you want to get training, you can go to college. But as they say, those who can do, those who can't teach. And I found that almost every one of my screenwriting teachers were terrible. They were not good screenwriters, and most of them weren't even good teachers. They taught me. They taught me. I can do it myself, and I had one pretty good one. He was good, and he contacted me not too long ago. It was great to hear from him. But the other people, man, I had a teacher, man. I gave her feedback, and she wasn't allowed to teach the class she taught again after my feedback because I complained so badly to the college, and she was terrible at her job. So it's really tough to find someone who's good at screenwriting because it's a gig that not many people want to do because when they try to do it, they either don't make any money at it or they find it a thankless job. William Goldman, the patron saint of screenwriting, look up the quotes he had about screenwriting. They're not too flattering. And I just want to tell you that in advance. As a screenwriter, if you truly want to push just the craft of screenwriting without learning to be an actor, without becoming a director and a producer too, then you really need to develop all the other skills that screenwriters develop, like networking, like meeting people and promoting yourself. Because in Hollywood, if you can promote yourself as the world's greatest screenwriter, and Hollywood believes that, oh, you'll get tons of work, regardless of your skill. And there are guys who are really good at promoting themselves. They're really good at networking. And they're some of the worst writers you'll ever read. And they get tons of work because of what I just said. I know there are guys like that in comic books. They used to drive me crazy because they would get work all the time because they knew the right editors. They knew which buttons to push. They had gotten in. They had already gotten credits. And they just kept getting work, even though they were terrible. Even though the books they worked on always got canceled. But people liked them. You know? So, and there are some guys who are actually very good at writing. And for whatever reason, their book doesn't hit or their movie doesn't hit. And they struggle. So, my advice to you, if you want to get training as a screenwriter, is you can go the college route. It's an expensive way to do it. I don't think it's the best way. I don't think it ever was a good way. I think your ideal way would be to apprentice, under another screenwriter, work for him, and then, as part of your work, you would get feedback for your screenplays, or just straight up pay a guy like me. That to me would be the best if you can find someone that you think, okay, he's a good screenwriter. That's going to be very hard to do, but I would recommend that. I would also recommend looking online for the videos and the tutorials, learn the format. That portion of it's very easy. There are plenty of books on the subjects, but you could just find a screenplay template online and just use that. Make sure you're using the Courier font and following the formatting instructions, and then just start working on your writing. You can take writing classes and screenplay classes that aren't necessarily, going for a whole college degree, cheaper classes, more adult classes kind of things at your community college. Take in the feedback, but you may not want to take that totally as gospel, because you're dealing with people who are very far removed from the industry. Because unless you're in LA or New York, dealing with people who used to be in the industry or at least had some tangential connections to the industry, you're probably working with an amateur like I encountered in college all the time, who they're a pretty good college professor or a pretty good professor, but they don't actually know the business very well because they don't have any practical knowledge of it. Another way you could start is just start small. You know, learn the format and then script a short film. Filmmakers are always looking for short films. Sometimes they produce them for YouTube and online. Other times they're producing them for certain contests because they don't have the money to do a feature length. But they're always looking for it. So it's always good to have, you know, a bunch of those ready to go in case somebody says, oh, I want to do a short film, or can you send me a sample? A lot of times a short film script is a nice sample to send because it's complete and it has a beginning, middle, end, and you can look at that. So yeah, those are your options. Or your options is just to be self-taught. Just figure it out yourself. Feed your mind with quality. So another thing that will help you as a screenwriter is to watch good movies, like the best movies. It's not necessarily Oscar winners in the modern day, but some Oscar winners, that's a metrics. I would take the Oscar winners from, you know, prior to 2000, but you want to look at movies that are considered classics, absolute classics, that are the greatest movies. And you want to do the same thing with books. You want to read classical literature, classical plays. Shakespeare is one to read. If you haven't read Shakespeare, you definitely need to read Shakespeare. You need to get a good baseline of that, because those are all the basics in writing that you need to bring to the table in screenwriting. And there are many people in the industry that just don't have those basics. And I was thinking I may do another video on that. So, I hope I've answered your question, Ray. It's a thankless gig. You know, write every day would be another suggestion. And, you know, just keep at it and don't give up until you make some headway. The other skills like networking and, you know, meeting people and promoting yourself and all that stuff, you know, a lot of that's social media now. So do a lot of that and promote yourself, and don't be afraid to promote yourself, especially once you get a credit or two. You know, and as I always like to say, I work cheap, but I don't work for free. So you can say that too. That'll get you some work. A Craigslist is a good place sometimes. I used to hunt down stuff on Craigslist and Mandy's List. Just, you know, writing gigs. They're few and far between today for a comedy writer, but once in a while they drop there. So, but yeah, develop your skills, develop your writing skills, and good luck to you, Ray. You're gonna need it. And that's it for me, Tony D, and Little Joan barking in the front of the house. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.